here we are, day 4. Still running off the generator. Hydro outage map still says our power outage in this area has yet to be classified. They still say there is work in the area. What any of that means, I don't know. But I don't want to leave the generator running any longer without changing the oil. So we keep our fingers crossed and hope it'll come back, but we need to be prepared for it not coming back, which means getting this down to the shop. Now fortunately, I've got a second generator that powers the shop, so it's running on its own now. So let's get this down there, get the oil changed, and get it back up. So what I'm showing you guys here are basic maintenance steps for a generator like this that I take. I'm not saying they're right. There might be other better ways to do it, but this is what I have found has worked well for me. So I've taken the drain plug out and let the old oil drain away. Now these drain plugs will have a washer on them. Now this is generally either copper or aluminum. This one appears to be aluminum. You want to have a look at this before you put your plug back in. Make sure there's no score marks or anything like that, or big digs in it or anything, or it could leak on you. This one's in pretty good shape, so we're not going to worry about changing it. So we'll let the old oil run out. You also want to do this when your motor is warm. It just makes it that much easier for the oil to come out. And what I like to use is a 5W30 full synthetic oil. Now from the research I've done, I have found that the 5W30 seems to be a little more all weather, in cold or hot or anything like that. It seems to do pretty good. Plus the big thing for me is using a full synthetic oil. And the other thing that is handy to do on a little generator like this, keep track of the hours and how long the machine has run. I've got 2 pieces of masking tape on here. One tells me how much oil I want to put in, and in this particular case it's 1100 milliliters. And the other one tells me when my next oil change is due. Now these are small generators. There is no oil filter on them, so you've got to watch that you don't run them too long. So I change the oil out generally every 50 hours. And normally that would give you a lot of time. But because we've been in this storm, it's hit the 50 hours, or just about. So it's time to change it. So we've got everything drained. Let's get our plug back in, get our fresh oil in, and we'll be ready to go. One other thing that I've mentioned a few times about these generators and other small equipment like chainsaws and that type of thing, if they have a carburetor on them, now fuel injection system is different. If they have a carburetor, you want to make sure that you're running high test gasoline. The reason for that is there is generally, supposedly, no ethanol in high test gas. Ethanol attracts moisture. If you're running ethanol in something that's got a carburetor on it and you leave it sit for any amount of time, it could attract moisture and it could ruin the carburetor. And the other thing I do is I treat my gas. As soon as I bring it in 20 liters at a time. I treat that gas. So it does last a long time. If I've got a generator that's going to be sitting, or a piece of equipment that's going to be sitting for a long time with gas in it, I know that gas is still going to be viable even after a year. I wouldn't go much longer than that, but a year would probably still be fine. So let's get our plug back in here, get our oil in, get this thing back up and get it running again, because there's still no power. Watch you don't overfill the crankcase in these things. Overfilling it can be practically as bad as underfilling it. That's why I've got a piece of tape on this telling me just how much oil it needs. A lot of the times the manuals won't tell you. They just tell you to fill it to the line on the dipstick. I prefer to know just how much I need to pour in. And the job's done. There's really not that much to it. If you can't do it yourself, get somebody else to do it. Don't let these things run for too long on old oil, or you'll lose them. And then when you really need it, you won't have it. So I just want to take a minute of your time here, guys, to say thank you very much for watching. I hope you've been finding the videos interesting, or at the very least entertaining. And if that's the case, I'd really appreciate the like on the video, and I'd love to have you subscribe to the channel. So if you have any questions, thoughts, suggestions, anything like that, please don't hesitate to send a comment. I'd really love to hear from you. One thing I did forget to mention, when you change your oil, check the air filter. It doesn't take much to check it, and I like to take it out and use about 30 psi only and very gently blow the air filter clean. You also want to watch which way you're blowing the air through. You don't want to blow it into the filter, in towards the intake. Blow it out from the back side of the filter. Then you should be good. One other thing to keep in mind with these generators is, remember, they are burning a fuel. This one's burning gasoline. Some of them burn propane. If it's burning a fuel, it's giving off fumes. So this generator has got a 75-foot cable attached to it, and it's sitting in the open doorway of my garden shed, and the exhaust right here points out of the garden shed, not back into it. You need to really be careful with where you put these things when you're using them. You want to make sure you're not near any windows or air currents or anything like that around your house that's going to pull the fumes from these things back into the house. The carbon monoxide that comes off of them is generally odorless. You can't see it. You won't be able to taste it, nothing, but it will affect you, and it can affect you severely. So please be careful with these. Never use a fuel burning generator inside your house. And when you're setting it up, make sure you're not setting it up too close to the house or in a position near a window or anything like that. So this is the switch here mounted underneath the meter. So what this switch does is it allows me to run my generator and power the house. Now, this particular switch is a 30 amp switch, so it's not a big heavy one. These kind of switches, I think the heaviest they come is 40 amps. Then you have to go to a much heavier switching panel with the bigger generators kind of thing. But this does it very nicely for me. So I can start the generator, plug this in, turn the power back on in the house, and we've got everything running. Now, our house does have an electric water heater and an electric stove. Now, I can't run everything with that generator. I obviously can't run the electric stove. They take a huge amount of power. And the hot water heater, to be on the safe side, I turn off. Now, they generally use about 20 amps worth of power. So that's a lot of power. And if we're off for an extended period of time, I'll unplug the fridges and freezers and that type of thing, and then turn the hot water heater on, let it heat for an hour and a half, turn the hot water heater back off, plug the fridges and freezers back in, and you're good to go. I have found that the hot water tank, as long as you're not overusing it, it will hold hot water for 3 days without any trouble. And that works very nicely. So these are not a full household replacement kind of thing. These switches work really well. I love the fact that we've got it. But it's not like the full Generac or the different manufacturer. It's not like a full backup generator that will start on its own and all that kind of thing. This doesn't do that. I need to be here to plug this in, make the changes inside, and start my gas generator. And that's fine. The power goes out when I'm not here. Generally speaking, I'm not too worried about it. Well, I hope you guys have found that little bit of information on the GenerLink switch and on generators in general useful. So that's going to be it for today's video. Just a short one about this as we continue to get through this power outage. So thanks very much for watching, guys, and we'll see you out on the trails the next time.